The thumbnail has to stop your scroll. What that means is people are scrolling through social media platforms so fast, and even on YouTube, they're scrolling through their subscription feed or their home feed or the trending page, or they're seeing very small frames in their recommended. It has to stop them in their tracks.
For us, we found that a big face in the frame works really well. Symmetry also has shown to work really well for us.
What's important here is that you have a high-res photo and that it's aesthetically pleasing and that it's loud enough or controversial enough or just captures attention. It has to stop someone's scroll.
Now, once you've stopped someone's scroll, you have a split second to make sure that they know what the story could be. And that's the next thing we've seen that good thumbnails have. They tell a story.
So you have to set up the entire video in a single frame.
It's the ultimate storytelling constraint. You have to put your entire act one, the entire reason why someone should watch to the end, in one single frame, and that frame is your thumbnail.
A good thumbnail either begs a question or suggests transformation. The audience has to know why they should invest their time in this video. Either they have a question after seeing your thumbnail, or they're excited to see something transform.
Always avoid fancy fonts. And I know that fancy fonts are beautiful. They look amazing on a website. For example, these fonts right here or these fonts right here. But the thing that you gotta realize is that even though these fonts look really great on Pinterest or your website or your blog, they convert terribly on YouTube. And the reason why, especially on a small screen like mobile, these fancier fonts tend to be very hard to read. And that's why no matter how beautiful a font is, we personally won't choose them for our thumbnails. And instead, we'll opt for very simple, very clean, and very bold fonts such as Oswald, Bebas New, Montserrat, Poppins. These are personally my favorite fonts to use for my thumbnails. No text should be over 4 words. When you're thinking about looking at thumbnails on mobile, the more text that you have, the less you're able to stretch out that text to be bigger on your thumbnails. And so when you have only 4 words, let's say, it's gonna be a lot easier to enlarge that and to create more of an impact onto your thumbnail. What exactly to put in your thumbnail when it comes to the text? Now, I follow one of the following 2 options. Option 1 is I say it like it is. I literally use my text to explain exactly what my viewers are gonna get from my video. If I am creating a video on my Instagram strategy for 2020, then my title is going to be Instagram strategy for 2020. I personally like being straightforward in my videos so that people can expect the exact content that they assume that they were gonna get from looking at the thumbnail alone. Now, on the other hand, for some of my other videos, and I don't do this often, is you can choose the option where you do more of a clickbait title. And this is where you don't really give everything away, and maybe you put, 1 or 2 words that's really gonna evoke a reaction or curiosity from your audience. For example, like this. Now, these are also really effective in order to create an emotional response from your viewers. Now, it's just up to you to just test the following 2 options. There is no right or wrong, and see what performs better on your channel.
For most of these, I had a darker background on very bright, oversaturated food. It makes everything in the foreground stand out a lot more. You want to see these people go through this pain and see their reaction to all these crazy foods that they're eating.
You would think with someone eating spicy food that the thumbnail would show them like drooling at the mouth, but something I've kind of learned, sometimes it's better to not show that reaction first because the viewer actually wants to click and see the reaction.
If you get someone to click on the video and you don't already spoil the reaction, it makes the people stay for the entire video until he has his reaction.
According to my current designer, text can either make or break a thumbnail. Another designer that I interviewed mentioned that text can be used sparingly and in a simple fashion to advance the story of a thumbnail. In both his and my opinions, a viewer should be able to look at a thumbnail and mostly know what the video is about without even seeing the title. A couple of the designers that I interviewed thought it'd be a smart idea to make a thumbnail before the video and not the video before the thumbnail like most people do. This is because you're basically trapped by the first 30 seconds or so of your video when you're coming up with thumbnail concepts. Because if you make a thumbnail that portrays something different than your intro, viewers will likely be disappointed and feel clickbaited when they click on your video, and then they'll just leave. In contrast, if you come up with a thumbnail concept first, it's really easy to base your edit off of it and have everything work out a lot better. However, I personally don't care all that much and just find it easier to make the thumbnail after I get the video from my editor editor, but it's just really all up to personal preference.
Thumbnails are not all about pretty design. Oh no, in fact 80%, maybe even 90% of the power they use to get you to click is about working out what will interest you on a deeper psychological level as fast as they flipping can. To do that, many spend hours, maybe even days, trying to find a smart way to create a particular feeling in your brain the second you see it. This feeling they obsess over is the difference between thousands or millions of views, and that feeling is intrigue. Others call it curiosity. You could even argue it's FOMO. This ugly image, therefore, is not a rush job. It's a giant psychological mind hack designed to make you feel something that makes you not just want to, but need to click to confirm something about yourself. So how do top YouTubers come up with an image with so much intrigue in it, you are unable to resist clicking it? Well, it's down to a few things. First, YouTubers will spend a lot of time researching to find inspiration for their image idea. Now that inspiration, it could come from anywhere. However, they often turn to other YouTubers' thumbnails, or sometimes even film posters have elements in them they can borrow. Even those weird ads on the bottom of blog posts are a minefield for ad revenue generating thumbnails. But when they have that inspiration, YouTubers then spend a massive amount of time brainstorming and creating multiple concepts that could help to generate that desired feeling. But this doesn't stop there though. The top YouTubers mega hack, and even channels without millions of subscribers, have these things called think tanks. So basically they hire 4 to 5 people to come up with 4 to 5 different images for each video they make, and then each member of the think tank will present their idea, and the thumbnail that gets picked can win the designer a bonus. Now that might seem like overkill, but so much time and effort goes into their videos, they cannot risk not having it click. On a much smaller scale though, even the YouTubers who are starting out or have less than 6-figure subscriber counts have realized just how important getting a click is, so they join training communities to give each other help and feedback on their images, because going it alone is almost a guaranteed recipe for failure.
Don't be too clever. Don't try to be too clever with the story of your thumbnail. If it does not either fit your audience expectations or delight them in a new way, do not do it. You see, it's often shared that you should have a primary focal point for your thumbnails, but what's better from my experience is to think of it as the main character in the story that your thumbnail is telling. In fact, as I have analyzed thousands of YouTube thumbnails, there's almost always just a single main character, a main focal point that the entirety of the rest of the thumbnail is directing your eyes and your interest to. Occasionally there are what I'd call co-stars or more than one focal point, but I cannot think of any successful thumbnail that has more than 2 co-stars as the primary focus points. So as you're choosing the main character for your thumbnail, I want you to keep in mind these things. 1, it should be very obvious who or what the main character of the thumbnail is. Now, how do you make it obvious? Everything about that thumbnail seems to be directing to that primary main character. Now let's talk the updates or the recent trends that are working really well that I've been seeing in this main character aspect of your thumbnails. One is that some main characters force you to look at the title of the video. If used effectively, it will actually cause your audience or your potential audience to pause and have to look more into what this video is even about. And in the era of attention being currency, something that makes your audience say, hold on, I might actually be interested in this video, where previously they might have just said, nah, not of interest at all to me. Anything that does that is a step in the right direction and a positive thing for your thumbnails to accomplish. But why do people decide to click or tap on a thumbnail in the first place? I've broken it down to a few things that you'll incorporate into your own thumbnails. First of all, story, movement, action, interest in an object or event, or some emotion portrayed by that thumbnail. So your purpose with your main character and supporting cast is to tell a story that evokes one of those reasons and gives people a reason to, you guessed it, click or tap on your video versus all the other videos.
Is there something you could say about what are the elements of a thumbnail that work well? Or is this also deeply instinctual?
Well, that's where, it's the same thing. Like, how do you cook good food? But it's easier if you pull up a thumbnail and I could be like, that's why that's good. That's why that's bad. That's like an example would be like one of my friends. He just uploaded a video recently, and I called him. I was like, what is this? Because he's a very, very smart guy. And in the thumbnail, he's getting chased by cops, but the cops were wearing yellow vests, so they didn't look like cops. So I was like, oh, why are the cops in your thumbnail wearing yellow vests? It's like, that makes it so much more boring. And he was like carrying a flag, but the pole and the color of the flag were the same color. So it's like, it's a little harder to see the flag. I was like, also, you're wearing like a shirt with like 5 different colors. Like, so it's like, it's hard to tell what your outline is. And then in the background, there are cars. And I was like, well, if you have cops chasing you, why not make the cars cop cars? And, and it's like, because in my head, I'm like, dang, if you just did those like 4 or 5 things, the video probably would have got like 7x the views.